Good morning again. The start of a new school year for each of us offers the promise of new beginnings. Whether today is your very first day here at Thayer, whether it's the first day of your last chapter at Thayer, I'm speaking to the members of the great class of 2023, or like Mr. Carlson, you are celebrating your 46th year at the school, and let us honor Mr. Carlson for that remarkable accomplishment. So when I look at all of you and I see new and returning faces who will collectively breathe new life into this school and build on the chorus of generations of Thayer students who've come before, I'm very gratified. I love to think about all the things that are yet to come this year, who each of us is going to be 9 months from now when the year comes to a close, and about the friendships that you're going to make and the friendships you will deepen from this day forward, many of which will last a lifetime, and that's very true. Now, building on the support of your families, those friendships, the relationships you make with your teachers here and your coaches, they're going to form the foundation of everything that you will achieve here. And I want to let you in on a secret. Maybe it's the secret to Thayer Academy, and I'll do it here in the first minute of speaking on our very first day together. Everything you need to succeed is found in the people in this room, the people all around you. If you want to do great things as a young scholar or an athlete or an artist or a leader, embrace the reality that everything you will do here, learning, leading, performing, competing, everything is a team sport. And this, my friends, is your team, all of these people around you. And we need each other to do our best work. We rise to honorable achievement, as is said in our mission statement, and we make a difference in the lives of others when we embrace the fact that we are part of our team, our friends, classmates, teammates, coaches, teachers, the visiting scholars and artists who will join us in this community this year. This is your team. The people around you, this is your team. And because of that, I'd like to take a moment as we start this morning by asking each of you to take a moment, turn to the person next to you, or two people next to you, look them in the eye, kindly, not creepily, shake their hands, give them a high five or a fist bump, and welcome them to the new school year. All right, thank you. Thank you for doing that. And a quick public health reminder as I'm looking at the nurses over there too, or at least Mrs. Cunningham. There are plenty of hand sanitizing stations still around campus after you leave today, after I've asked you to give high fives and handshakes. As I just watched you greeting one another right now, as our team comes together this year, thinking about what Connor so beautifully shared, we must remember that this year starts incomplete without James among us. And while we will miss his humor and fellowship every day, let us keep his spirit alive and recommit to that by knowing each other, connecting with each other, and supporting one another, this team, his team. This idea of taking a moment of saying good morning and wishing someone a good day, let's do that. Let's do it every day. Let's do it all year long. Let's stop for a moment when you're on the walkways, when you're on the steps of Maine, when you're going to class, when you're going to practice, and you encounter someone you know or you don't know especially. Stop to see each other. Stop to say hello, thank someone, encourage someone, and connect briefly. My suspicion is the more you try to do that, the more dividends it's going to pay in the stories that you get to tell people, the stories you hear, the opportunities you'll have to make friendships, and those things that will in turn make you more comfortable and actually more skilled in being a good communicator and a collaborator. Those are leadership skills that you absolutely need to be great at as you leave here and go into the world. And that's going to make you stand out in your life. So it's not just about the good things for this community, it's about good things for you too. So today, a new chapter, a new school year begins for each of us, and I'm going to ask you to consider, how are you going to choose to show up? How will you show up here today and tomorrow and each day after that? Now, I realize that's a lot. That's a big question for everyone to ponder when there's probably just a few things. I'm looking at our freshman class as well and new students. There's probably a few things swirling around in your head and some anxieties that you may be feeling. So to help with that, I want to do two things. First, I'm going to virtually introduce you to Teddy. I know it's shameless when you show a cute pet up on a screen. He's not officially licensed or certified to do to bring people comfort, but he brings me a lot of comfort, including on this stressful moment of a first day of school. And he was happy enough to pose for all of you with the hope of offering a calm and reassuring, non-judgmental face to start your morning. And I hope when you are walking around campus later in the day, if I'm walking him or Mrs. Fortunato is walking him, that you get a chance to meet him, and he will be very pleased to see you, and especially if you have treats. The other thing I'd like to do, knowing that you have a lot of things on your mind today, is simply offer my advice. Offer my advice for how I think you can show up and should show up here at Thayer. And on that front, I offer and invite you to do 3 things. First thing, look up more than you look down. The second, strive to be a builder and not a cynic. And the third thing, be kind. So to the first of those things, I think way too much time in our lives in this world is spent looking down. That often means literally looking down, right? At our phones, our devices. You see people who are on crowded streets bumping into each other when they're texting or posting, or the people who immediately bring out their devices when they sit anywhere in public by themselves because they're in that awkward space, maybe before class or waiting at Starbucks for somebody, embarrassed that they're going to look like they're visibly alone and what that means. I'm sure all of us have been through that experience. And don't get me wrong, I appreciate and use my phone often. I love a good meme, sort of. I've been amused by and maybe impressed by some things I've seen on TikTok and equally horrified by some other things I've seen on TikTok as well. I like being in touch with my family and my colleagues. I like having the freedom and the power to have a world of information in my hand at any time. And this technology is going to remain revolutionary and world-changing. And so part of our job is to make sure that you learn how to understand it, leverage it, and contribute to it or innovate around it. So I'm a big fan. But I'd also like you to consider what we might be missing, what you might be missing when you're spending more time looking down than up. And it turns out, I think we're probably missing more than you realize. There are times when it's amazing to have the world in our hands, and then when we're looking down, sometimes our worlds actually are getting smaller. We're missing what could be some of the most meaningful conversations, the ones that lead to those lasting friendships, the ones that lead to opportunities that, no exaggeration, can change your lives. So here's one way that I want to help our team this year and build even stronger and more meaningful connections so that we look up more. This is not an entirely new thing, but this year moving forward, we're adopting a practice that when you're in your classes, your phones go in your bag, not in your pocket, not on the desk, not on the floor. And when you're in the dining hall, they shouldn't be out. And that goes for adults as much as it goes for students, unless it's some kind of emergency or it's part of a lesson. Because that constant distraction that comes from endless buzzing and notifications and the temptation for us just to check, just quickly, I need to check, it's literally rewiring our brains, literally rewiring the neurons in your brain in ways that are actually pretty seriously getting in the way of the things that you come here for, which is deeper learning, more meaningful connections, and it's harming your well-being. And on those fronts, honestly, all of you deserve nothing but the best from this school, and I want us to be best at doing this. Now, there's one more way in this community that I want us as a team to think carefully about how we might be looking down more than looking up, and it's not just the literal part of it. I'm referring to how, at times, people can look down on others in judgment, or look down on ideas and opportunities simply because they're new or different. We want your worlds to be bigger, not smaller. And that comes from being curious, having an open mind, an open heart, and a willingness to ask why, maybe even more than once, and actually listen to what people have to say. But our worlds get smaller when we step away from curiosity, and instead when we dismiss or judge or denigrate people and ideas that we may disagree with or we really don't quite connect with or understand just yet. I totally get why that happens. So much of what we see and hear, whether it's online or in person or around us, is focusing on taking people down as opposed to building them up, shutting down ideas instead of exploring them, and labeling people. There's this odd to me misguided pressure these days to make people believe you have to be one thing only or the other thing only. People are all right or all wrong. You're conservative, you're liberal. You're an out-of-touch dreamer, you're an uninspired realist. You're good or evil, for a good Star Wars reference, you're Sith or Jedi. You're Miyagi-Do or Cobra Kai. All right, maybe I went too far. But to me, see, that's a cynical way to look at life. And all of us in this room as teachers and students. And by the way, every one of us, adults and students, we're all teachers and students on this campus and citizens of the school. We can't fall victim to that. Jeff Bezos, I imagine some of you have heard of him, right? Okay, I imagine you have. He's famously spoke at Princeton's graduation a few years back, and he posed the question to the graduating class, will you be a cynic or will you be a builder? I know it's easy for all of us to fall victim at times to being cynical, especially when the world seems so polarized, problems seem too big or too hard, or when other people let us down, or when we let ourselves down. But today I'm going to ask all of us to try to be builders. Go into this year and build friendships, amazing teams, championship teams, academic records that you can be proud of, amazing plays and concerts on this stage and everywhere else, impactful global scholars and senior projects, service days, Omega celebrations, art portfolios, robots, clubs, winning Winter Wars teams, and so much more. And do not be fooled by cynics who look down on others, or who say it's naive to actually believe in things, or who want to find fault in problems instead of fellowship and solutions. And in that same Princeton speech, Bezos asked another question, will you be clever at the expense of being kind to others? And so I come to my last challenge to all of us for this year. Maybe it's the simplest of all. Be kind. In all that we do, how we treat each other, the people in this room and everywhere else, it matters. It's a reflection of who we are. At some point, what you do becomes who you are. And there are all sorts of ways to justify being clever at the expense of others. I understand the temptation and sometimes the pull of that, it's the strength of that. It's the stuff that TikTok challenges and Instagram reposts are made of. But I challenge all of us to be better than that. I challenge all of us to be better than that. Look up at people around you who rely on you and who you rely on before you choose to be clever at someone else's expense. Kindness is not a luxury here. It's an obligation. Thayer is not a place where we will embrace cynics, people who think they're too cool for all that we do here, or trolls, or anyone who chooses to bring down people or lob insults from the cheap seats. And when I say cheap seats, I'm not talking about location or price in an arena. The cheap seats, whether they're in the front or the back, the VIP lounge, or the nosebleeds, those are the seats filled with people who themselves never put themselves out there, and yet they hurl mean-spirited criticisms and put-downs from a safe distance instead of actually themselves getting on the court, the turf, the pitch, or the stage. There will be no cheap seats in this theater or on this campus, not under my watch. So in every place on this campus and every part of this school, that means every classroom, playing field, locker room, hallway, dining hall, pathway, every away game, every international trip, everywhere in between, I expect and will hold us all accountable for treating one another with exceptional dignity and care, because every member of this school is your team. So before we depart this morning, there are a few gifts I'd actually like to offer to you as we start the school year, because sometimes I think it's helpful to have tangible reminders of the things we talk about and the things that matter to us. So first, last year I was inspired by a student who was searching for a Thayer pin, the one I'm wearing now, that he wanted to proudly wear to represent us at an academic off-campus competition. So this summer, several of us got together and designed for you this Thayer pin for all faculty, staff, students, and trustees. And I imagine there'll be some alums who will be sending us notes as well looking for it. They're going to be available to you in your advisories tomorrow. I hope you'll wear them or stick them on your bag or keep them somewhere for years to come. And the same goes for a Thayer t-shirt that I think is over there. Peter, can you grab that for me? Thank you. Thank you, sir. A Thayer shirt that we designed over the summer that everyone will get, faculty, staff, students, and trustees, to start the school year. And I hope it's something you'll wear as we do things like all-school days of service and other all-school opportunities. And finally, there's one more way I'd like us to help continue to think about looking up and staying more connected as a team. Let me ask you a question, just quick show of hands. Who here has ever spent any time looking up at the sky or the stars when you're sort of deep in thought or trying to figure something out? Okay. You're in pretty good company. It's a pretty universal human experience that's been going on throughout history, as well as in almost every major Disney character's experience in all the movies I've loved. And I brought you some examples. So, there's something that I want to be able to do for all of us. And by the way, this is something you can very much do when you're in between things, as especially gets darker earlier here at Thayer. And that's our observatory. There's something about that momentary act of looking up that's a reminder to all of us that we are part of something bigger, connected by common experiences and identities and a yearning to figure out our place in the world. So to encourage all of us from time to time, take moments to look up, I went ahead and I bought Thayer a star. Okay, well, let me back up. Not exactly. Because it turns out, by the way, you can't actually own or buy a star, but you can name one. And Mr. Smith, by the way, I'll send you the coordinates so we can look at this through our telescope. Its original super cool and easy to remember name was CX1266US. But for our purposes, I've renamed it so that it will be forever known as Thayer 46, in honor of our school, our team, and in honor of James. And I'll send this to all of you so you can find it in the night sky as well. I know that while we enjoy the privilege of being together in this space, looking forward to an incredible year ahead, there are going to be moments, whether it's this year or years from now, when we might need a reminder of what it feels like to be known and to be seen, to be a part of this place and part of each other's lives. So whenever and wherever you are, a day from now or decades from now, remember there's always going to be a point in the sky in which each of us can look up and remember that we are forever connected and that James will always be a part of our team. So I shared a lot of words today, but as we close, I'd like us to all together have the last word. At the end of this year, you're going to hear Mr. Carlson continue a long-standing tradition of singing the song that starts with these three words. But for today, I'm hoping as we depart, we can send each other off today by saying these words together, Thayer, Thayer, forever. So they ready? Let's do it. Thayer, Thayer, forever. How about one more time, loud and proud? Thayer, Thayer, forever. Thank you so much for listening, for your attention. Have a great school year.